Have you ever felt exhausted trying to explain yourself to someone who never truly wanted to understand? You spoke from your heart. You clarified your intentions. You repeated your truth. Yet somehow, your words were twisted, ignored, or used against you. That painful moment when you realize they were never listening, only waiting to judge. This is the story of a man who learned a powerful lesson. That silence, when chosen wisely, can speak louder than any explanation. Long ago, in a quiet village surrounded by rolling green hills and slow-moving rivers, lived a man named Thomas Gray. Thomas was a lantern maker, an honest craftsman whose hands shaped glass, metal, and flame into gentle sources of light. His lamps didn't burn harshly. They glowed softly, warmly, as if they carried patience inside them. Thomas lived a simple life. He spoke politely. He worked carefully. He never hurried his craft, believing that good work required calm hands and a peaceful mind. People admired his lanterns, but not everyone admired the man behind them. Across the narrow street lived Mr. Clark, the village tax collector. Clark was known for his sharp tongue and suspicious nature. He believed most people were dishonest, and Thomas was no exception. In the crowded marketplace, Clark often raised his voice. "These lanterns are overpriced," he would shout. He cheats people with fancy words and weak light. The crowd would pause. Eyes would turn. Whispers would follow. Thomas, embarrassed but calm, would smile gently and explain. He spoke about the cost of fine glass, the purity of the oil, the long nights spent perfecting every detail. He never argued, only clarified. But Clark never listened. He smirked. He turned away. And Thomas was left standing alone with his honesty. Days passed. Then weeks. Then months. Thomas continued to explain himself whenever accusations arose. He defended his character. He justified his prices. He tried to protect his name. But something strange happened. The more he spoke, the faster rumors spread. "Thomas is greedy," someone whispered. "He hides money in his workshop," another claimed. "He pretends to be kind," said a third. Every explanation seemed to feed the fire. At night, Thomas sat beside a small flame in his home, watching the shadows dance across the walls. His lanterns flickered softly, unaware of the chaos they had caused. "Why can't they see the truth?" he whispered to the empty room. "Why must I keep explaining who I am?" One morning, the village square buzzed with excitement. A traveler had arrived, an elderly monk journeying through the hills. Villagers gathered around him, seeking blessings, wisdom, and comfort. Thomas watched from a distance, his heart heavy. Eventually, when the crowd thinned, he approached. With quiet respect, he spoke. "Sir," Thomas said, "I try to live honestly. I harm no one. Yet no matter how much I explain myself, people twist my words. What should I do to make them understand?" The monk studied Thomas carefully. His eyes were calm, deep, and unhurried. "Tell me," the monk asked gently, "if a man decides the sky is green, what color is the sky to him?" Thomas paused. "Green," he replied slowly. "And would your explanations change what his eyes choose to see?" the monk asked. Thomas shook his head. "No, they wouldn't." The monk smiled softly and placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then stop explaining colors to those who refuse to see. Let your work speak for you. Silence is not weakness, my son. It is strength wrapped in peace. And with that, the monk walked away. Thomas stood still, feeling something unusual, not anger, not sadness, but relief. It felt as if a long burning fire inside him had finally gone out. From that day forward, Thomas changed. He stopped defending himself. When accusations came, he smiled quietly. When mocked in public, he bowed politely and said nothing. At first, people assumed the worst. See? Clark laughed loudly. He has nothing left to say. He must be guilty. But Thomas continued working calmly, silently, carefully. Every evening, he polished a lantern and placed it outside his shop. Night after night, that lantern burned longer than all the others in the village. Travelers noticed. They said its light felt warm, steady, and safe. It guided tired feet. It softened lonely roads. Soon, people from neighboring towns came not because of Thomas's words, but because of his work. One evening, Mr. Clark himself arrived at Thomas's shop. He looked uncomfortable, proud but unsure. Without speaking much, he placed 3 coins on the counter. "I need a lantern from my porch," he muttered. Thomas nodded calmly. He handed Clark a lamp and said simply, "It will serve you well. No bitterness. No defense. Only peace." Days later, villagers noticed Clark standing outside his home at dusk, staring at the glowing lantern. He didn't apologize. He didn't speak. But something in his face had changed. For the first time, he saw what words could never prove. Weeks passed. Thomas's shop glowed brighter than ever. He still spoke kindly, but he never explained himself again. If someone misunderstood him, he let them. If someone doubted him, he smiled. His silence became his shield. His peace became his wealth. One night, as Thomas placed a lantern outside his door, a young boy asked, "Mr. Thomas, why do your light shine so beautifully?" Thomas looked at the flame and replied softly, "Because I no longer waste my fire trying to light the darkness inside others. I keep it where it belongs." The boy smiled. The lantern flickered warmly against the dark sky. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. You don't need to defend your truth to those who have already decided against it. You don't need to explain your heart to those who never wanted to listen. Peace is not found in being understood. It is found when you realize you no longer need to explain. When you stop chasing validation, something beautiful appears. Freedom. And in that quiet space, life feels lighter, calmer, real. If this story touched your heart, remember many more stories like this are waiting for you here. Subscribe to Tales with English and join a journey where every story brings peace, hope, and self-discovery. Until next time, stay kind, stay calm, and keep your inner light glowing.